I was standing in my kitchen, phone in hand, staring at a fraud alert notification that made my blood run cold. My son Travis had just called his wife Ashley's sweetheart and handed her my credit card without asking. She walked into a luxury car dealership and tried to put down $95,000 on an SUV. But when the salesman ran the card, it declined. Frozen. Because I had set up alerts and froze it the instant I saw the attempted charge. Now my phone would not stop ringing. My hand was shaking as I answered the call. I knew it would be Travis before I even looked at the screen. Dad, what the hell did you do? His voice exploded through the speaker so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. You just embarrassed Ashley in front of everyone at the dealership. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? I could hear Ashley crying in the background, her sobs dramatic and theatrical. My chest tightened. This was my son. The boy I raised, the man I thought I knew. Travis, slow down, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Why did Ashley have my credit card? I never gave her permission to use it. Permission? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad, I've been telling Ashley for months that you'd help us buy a car. She needs reliable transportation. The baby's coming, and we can't keep driving that old sedan. What baby? I felt the room spin slightly. Travis, what are you talking about? Ashley's pregnant. Dad, we were going to tell you this weekend, but now you've gone and ruined everything. His voice cracked with anger. I told her you promised to help with a down payment. I told her my dad was a man of his word. I sank into one of my kitchen chairs, the same chairs Helen and I had bought 30 years ago. The vinyl was cracked now, held together with duct tape, but I could not afford to replace them. That is what Travis did not understand. What he had never understood. Son, I never promised any such thing, I said carefully. That money in my account, that $200,000, that's my life savings. That's everything I have for retirement, for medical expenses, for emergencies. You know I worked 42 years as a civil engineer for the county to save that. Oh, here we go with the poor dad routine, Travis snapped. You're sitting on 200 grand and you won't help your own son? Your own grandchild? How did Ashley even get my card? I asked, my voice harder now. I keep it in my wallet. There was a pause. Then Travis said, casual as anything, I took it from your wallet last Sunday when we came over for dinner. I figured you wouldn't mind. You took it? I stood up, anger flooding through me. Travis, that's theft. You stole from me. Oh, please, Dad. Family doesn't steal from family. Family shares. That's what real families do. But I guess you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Mom always said you were tight with money. The mention of Helen, my wife who had passed 3 years ago from cancer, hit me like a physical blow. Travis knew exactly what he was doing, weaponizing her memory. Don't you dare bring your mother into this, I said quietly. She would be ashamed of what you're doing right now. What I'm doing? Travis's voice rose to a shout. I'm trying to provide for my family. I'm trying to give my wife and child a decent life. But my own father, who has more money than he could spend in 10 years, won't lift a finger to help. Travis, listen to me. I took a deep breath. I'm not saying I won't help at all, but $95,000 for a car? That's not reasonable. That's not necessary. And taking my card without permission, that crossed a line. Fine, Travis said, and his voice went cold. You want to know what crossed a line, Dad? I'll tell you. Ashley's pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather. And if you don't give us that money, if you don't help us the way a real father would, you'll never see your grandchild. Ever. We'll move across the country. We'll change our numbers. Your choice. You can be part of this family, or you can sit alone in that crappy little house counting your precious money. The line went dead. I stood there in my kitchen, the afternoon sun streaming through the window over the sink, and I felt something break inside me. This was not about a car. This was not even about money. This was about control. This was about my son, my only child, threatening to take away my future grandchild if I did not submit to blackmail. I looked around my small house. Travis had called it crappy. Maybe it was. The carpet was worn. The walls needed paint. The furniture was old, but it was paid off. It was mine. And every threadbare piece of it represented security, independence, the ability to take care of myself without being a burden to anyone. That $200,000 was not just money. It was Helen's medical bills that I had paid without complaint. It was the life insurance policy I had cashed in when the bills exceeded what insurance covered. It was every overtime shift, every weekend consulting job, every vacation we did not take so we could save for our future. And now my son wanted to spend nearly half of it on a luxury car for a woman I barely knew. I called Travis back. He answered on the first ring. Did you change your mind? He asked. We need to talk face to face, I said. Tomorrow evening. Your place. No yelling, no threats, just a conversation. Fine, Travis said. But Dad? Come with a checkbook. He hung up before I could respond. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the little boy who used to climb into my lap and ask me to explain how Bridges stayed up. The teenager who had come to me, terrified, when he got his girlfriend pregnant in high school. That pregnancy had been a false alarm, but I had stood by him, ready to help him face whatever came. When had that boy turned into this man who would steal from his own father? The next evening, I drove to Travis and Ashley's apartment on the north side of town. They lived in one of those new luxury complexes with a fountain in the courtyard and a gym nobody used. The rent alone had to be at least $2,000 a month, maybe more. I had been there only twice before. Once for a housewarming party where Ashley had shown off their expensive furniture and flat-screen television that took up an entire wall. Once for Christmas, where I had felt awkward and out of place among Ashley's large, loud family. As I walked up to their second-floor unit, I noticed the wreath on the door was one of those expensive ones from the fancy home decor store downtown. It probably cost $70 or $80. More than I spent on groceries in a week. Ashley answered the door. She was a petite woman with long blonde hair and the kind of face that belonged in a makeup commercial. She wore yoga pants and an oversized sweater, one hand resting on her stomach, even though she could not possibly be showing yet, if she had just found out she was pregnant. Gabriel, she said, her voice cool. She never called me Dad, never even tried. Come in. The apartment was exactly as I remembered, except there seemed to be even more stuff now. A new leather sectional sofa dominated the living room. Shopping bags from expensive stores were stacked in the corner. On the kitchen counter, I could see a fancy coffee maker still in its box, the kind that cost $300 or $400. Travis came out of the bedroom holding a manila folder. He was dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt, like he was heading to a business meeting. His hair was slicked back. He looked like he was playing the part of a successful young executive. Dad, he said, gesturing to the sofa. Sit down. We need to discuss this like adults. Saturday. The leather was so soft it felt like sinking into butter. I thought about my own sofa at home, bought at a yard sale 15 years ago, springs poking through the cushions. Travis sat across from me in a matching leather chair. Ashley perched on the arm of his chair, her hand on his shoulder, united front. I've drawn up a family loan agreement, Travis said, opening the folder and pulling out several typed pages. I think this is the fairest way to handle things. You loan us $75,000. We'll pay you back over 10 years at 2% interest. That's below market rate, but you're family, so we figured you'd give us a break. I took the papers he held out. The document was professionally formatted, printed on expensive paper. He had really put effort into this. Travis, I said slowly, before we talk about loans or agreements, I need to understand your financial situation. How much debt are you carrying right now? Ashley's hand tightened on Travis's shoulder. Travis's jaw clenched. That's really not relevant, he said. It's completely relevant, I replied. If you can't manage your current finances, how will you manage a $75,000 loan? We manage just fine, Ashley said, her voice sharp. We have a beautiful home. We have everything we need. Except a car, apparently, I said. And money for a baby. Don't be condescending, Gabriel, Ashley snapped. You don't know anything about our lives. Then explain it to me, I said. I looked at Travis. Son, how much credit card debt do you have? Travis stood up, pacing. Dad, that's personal. And my bank account is personal, I shot back. But you seem to think you have a right to that. Fine, Travis threw up his hands. We have about $38,000 in credit card debt. Happy? Are you happy now? I felt my stomach drop. $38,000? Travis, on what? Life, Ashley said, standing up too. On living. On having nice things instead of living like a monk in a depressing little house. The dig at my home stung, but I pushed past it. And your income? What are you bringing in? I make decent money, Travis said defensively. I'm in sales. Last year I cleared $60,000. And Ashley? I don't work right now, Ashley said, lifting her chin. I'm focusing on preparing for the baby. But you just found out you're pregnant, I pointed out. I quit my job 2 months ago, Ashley admitted. Travis said we didn't need the income anymore because you were helping us. The room went silent. I looked at my son, this man I barely recognized. Let me make sure I understand, I said carefully. You quit your job, Ashley, based on money I never promised. You've accumulated $38,000 in debt. Your rent here must be at least $2,000 a month, probably more. And now you want me to give you $75,000 for a car? It's not just a car, Travis said. It's reliable transportation for our growing family. You can get reliable transportation for $15,000, I said. A good used car, something safe and dependable. I'll tell you what I'm willing to do. I'll help you with $5,000 toward a reasonable used car, and I'll help you create a budget to get out of debt. I'll even let you move in with me temporarily if you need to save money on rent. The look on Ashley's face was pure horror. Move in with you? She said, her voice rising. Into that tiny house with one bathroom and carpet from the 1970s? Are you joking? It's a roof over your head, I said. It's free. It would let you save money and get back on your feet. We don't need to get back on our feet, Travis said angrily. We just need family support. We need my father to do what fathers are supposed to do and help his children. I am helping, I said. I'm offering real help. A path forward that's sustainable. $5,000? Ashley's voice was shrill now. 5,000? Do you know how humiliated I was at that dealership? Do you know that I told everyone, all my friends, that we were getting a new luxury SUV? And now I have to tell them what? That my father-in-law is too cheap to help? Ashley, I started, but she was not done. My parents have already told their friends that you're paying for the nursery, she shouted. My mom has been ordering furniture, clothes, everything the baby needs. She thought you were taking care of it, because that's what Travis told her. I turned to Travis. You told her parents I would pay for all that? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I thought you would, Dad. I thought once you met Ashley, once you knew about the baby, you'd want to help. How much have they spent? I asked. About $15,000, Travis muttered. $15,000 on a baby that hasn't even been born yet? I was genuinely shocked. On credit, I assume? They expected you to cover it. Ashley was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. Travis promised them. Now, if you don't pay, Travis looks like a liar. Our marriage might not survive the embarrassment. I stood up, needing to distance myself from this madness. I'm not responsible for promises Travis made without my knowledge or consent. I'm not responsible for debt you accumulated based on assumptions. What I'm offering is reasonable and more than generous. Generous? Travis laughed bitterly. You're sitting on $200,000 and you think $5,000 is generous? That money is my future, I said. My security. Everything I have to live on for the rest of my life. You're so selfish, Ashley screamed. You're the most selfish person I've ever met. I headed for the door. This was going nowhere. These two people, they were not going to hear reason. They had built a fantasy world where I was their personal ATM, and reality was not going to penetrate. As my hand touched the doorknob, Ashley gasped. I turned. She was clutching her stomach, her face contorted. Oh God, she moaned. Oh God, the cramping. Travis, something's wrong. She collapsed onto the sofa, curling into a ball. Travis rushed to her side, his face pale with panic. Ashley, baby, are you okay? Is it the baby? It hurts, she sobbed. The stress, this fight. Oh God, Travis, call an ambulance. Travis grabbed his phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. He looked at me, his eyes wild with fear and fury. If something happens to our baby, he said, his voice deadly quiet, it's your fault. You did this. You and your selfishness. I stood frozen in the doorway as the dispatcher's voice came through the phone, as Travis gave the address, as Ashley continued to sob and moan, and I wondered if he was right. If somehow, by refusing to be manipulated, I had caused this. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later, paramedics rushing in with equipment and calm professionalism. They checked Ashley's vital signs, asked her questions, helped her onto a stretcher. Travis rode with her. I followed in my truck, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. All I could think was, this cannot be happening. This cannot be real. The emergency room at County General was busy for a Wednesday night. I sat in the waiting area, on an uncomfortable plastic chair, watching families come and go, listening to the overhead pages calling doctors to various departments. Travis had not spoken to me since we arrived. He had disappeared behind the double doors with Ashley, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my guilt. After what felt like hours but was probably only 45 minutes, a doctor came through the doors. She was young, probably in her early 30s, with kind eyes and tired shoulders. Family of Ashley Morgan? She called. I stood up. I'm her father-in-law. She's stable, the doctor said. The baby is fine. It appears to be stress-related cramping, nothing serious, but we want to monitor her for another hour or so, just to be safe. You can go back and see her if you'd like. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by a fresh wave of guilt, stress-related, caused by our fight, by my refusal to give them what they wanted. Thank you, I managed to say. I was about to head back when I heard loud voices in the lobby. I turned to see a large man in a construction jacket and a woman with perfectly styled gray hair marching toward the registration desk. We're here for Ashley Morgan, the man boomed. We got a call from our son-in-law, Roger and Diane, Ashley's parents. I had met them once, briefly, at the wedding 2 years ago. Roger had struck me as the type of man who solved every problem by getting louder. Diane had seemed pleasant enough, but had spent the entire wedding talking about how much everything cost. They spotted me before I could retreat. You, Roger jabbed a finger in my direction, closing the distance between us in a few long strides. You're Gabriel, right? Travis's dad? That's right, I said, standing my ground even as my heart raced. What the hell did you do to my daughter? Roger's face was red, veins bulging in his neck. Travis called us hysterical, said you caused her so much stress she's in the damn hospital. Roger, please, Diane said, but her voice was weak, ineffectual. The baby's fine, I said quickly. The doctor just told me. Ashley's going to be okay. No thanks to you. Roger got close enough that I could smell the coffee on his breath. What kind of father refuses to help his own son? His own grandchild? A security guard started moving in our direction, but Roger seemed oblivious. Travis explained everything, Diane said, her voice quivering with emotion. How you promised to help them, how you have all that money just sitting there, and then you cruelly refused at the last minute. Gabriel, how could you? That's not what happened, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and low. Travis took my credit card without permission. He made promises I never agreed to. So you're calling my son-in-law a liar? Roger's hands balled into fists. I'm saying there's been a misunderstanding, I said. The only misunderstanding is thinking you were a decent human being, Roger said. We've already bought everything for that baby. Diane's been shopping for weeks, getting the nursery ready. We put it all on credit because Travis said you were covering it. I never said that, I protested. I never agreed to any of it. You're breaking up their marriage, Diane said, tears rolling down her cheeks. Ashley's devastated. She thought she was marrying into a family that took care of each other. The security guard reached us. Folks, I'm going to need you to lower your voices, or take this outside. Roger glared at him, but stepped back. We're going to see our daughter. They pushed past me, toward the registration desk. I sank back into my chair, exhausted and overwhelmed. 20 minutes later, Travis emerged from the back. His eyes were red. He walked right past me without a word, meeting his in-laws in the hallway. I could not hear what they were saying, but Roger kept pointing in my direction, his face animated with anger. Then they all disappeared back through the doors, leaving me alone again. Another hour passed. I was about to give up and go home when a woman in a blazer with a hospital badge approached me. Mr. Morgan? I'm Catherine Wells, hospital social worker. Do you have a moment to talk? Miss stomach sank. Of course. We moved to a small consultation room off the main waiting area. Catherine had a tablet and a sympathetic expression that made me immediately wary. I've been speaking with Ashley and Travis, she said gently. There seems to be some significant family conflict. I want to make sure everyone has the support they need. The baby's fine, I said. The doctor said so. Yes. Physically, Catherine agreed. But I'm concerned about the family dynamics. Ashley mentioned that there's been financial stress, that you and Travis have had a serious disagreement about money and support. I realized what was happening. They had called in a social worker to make me look bad, to create a record that I was the problem. My son took my credit card without permission, I said clearly. He made financial promises to his wife, using my money without my knowledge or consent. When I discovered what happened, I offered reasonable assistance, but they demanded significantly more than I can afford to give. That's the situation. Catherine nodded, making notes on her tablet. And you're aware that Ashley is pregnant? I am now. They only told me yesterday. Do you feel equipped to support your family during this transition? She asked. The question was loaded. I could hear the subtext. Are you capable of being a proper grandfather? Are you mentally competent? Are you a danger to this family? I am a 68-year-old retired civil engineer, I said, keeping my voice steady. I live on a fixed income. I have $200,000 in savings that needs to last me the rest of my life. I love my son, and I want a relationship with my grandchild, but I cannot and will not be financially manipulated or coerced. Catherine made more notes. I understand this is a difficult situation. I'm going to document our conversation and provide some resources for family mediation if you're interested. Thank you, I said, though we both knew this was not about helping. This was about creating a paper trail. When I finally left the hospital around midnight, Roger was waiting by my truck in the parking lot. 2 other men stood with him, guys in work boots and canvas jackets. Construction workers, Roger's crew. We need to have a conversation, Roger said as I approached. I have nothing to say to you, I replied, keys in hand. Well, I have plenty to say to you. Roger stepped closer. You embarrassed my daughter. You humiliated her in public. You're causing problems in her marriage, and that's not going to stand. Are you threatening me? I asked. I'm telling you how things are going to be, Roger said. You're going to drop whatever charges or complaints you're thinking about filing. You're going to apologize to Ashley and Travis. And you're going to give them the money they need. Otherwise, things are going to get very uncomfortable for you. One of the other men cracked his knuckles. The message was clear. I need to go home, I said, moving toward my truck. Roger grabbed my arm. I'm not done talking to you. Let go of me, I said, my voice firm despite the fear coursing through me. Or what? You going to call the cops? Roger laughed. Good luck with that. I know half the force. I've done construction jobs on their houses. You're just some old man with a complaint. Who do you think they'll believe? He released my arm with a shove. I stumbled slightly, catching myself against the truck. You got until the end of the week, Roger said. Fix this mess you created, or we'll fix it for you. They walked away, laughing among themselves. I got into my truck with shaking hands and locked the doors immediately. As I drove home through empty streets, I realized how far this had escalated. This was not just about money anymore. This was about control, intimidation, and the very real possibility of violence. When I got home, I sat in my driveway for a long time before going inside. The motion sensor light clicked on, illuminating my small yard with its overgrown grass and the garden Helen had planted that I could not quite bring myself to maintain properly. Inside, the house felt emptier than ever. I made a cup of tea I did not drink and sat at the kitchen table, looking at the photo of Helen on the refrigerator. She was smiling, holding a grandchild that would never exist now, unless I submitted to blackmail. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office. We need to discuss the charges against Travis. This is his attorney, James Caldwell. I typed back. What charges? The response came immediately. The check fraud you reported. We should discuss this before it goes any further. I had not reported any check fraud. I did not know what he was talking about. Then my phone rang. My bank's fraud department. It was past midnight, but the woman on the line was all business. Mr. Morgan, we have flagged a suspicious check. Someone attempted to cash a check from your account for $45,000. The signature appears forged. We need you to come in first thing tomorrow morning. Who tried to cash it? I asked, though I already knew. A Travis Morgan. According to our records, he's listed as your son. The room spun. Travis had not just taken my credit card. He had forged a check. He had committed a felony. And now his attorney was trying to get ahead of it, trying to pressure me into dropping charges I had not even filed yet. I hung up with the bank and immediately called my own lawyer, Bill Henderson, a man I had known for 20 years. I left a voicemail explaining everything, asking him to call me first thing in the morning. Then I sat in my silent house and realized that my son, my only child, had just crossed a line from which there might be no return. I did not sleep that night. At 6 in the morning, I was already showered and dressed, sitting at my kitchen table with a pot of coffee and a growing sense of dread. Bill Henderson called at 7:30, earlier than I expected. Gabriel, his familiar gravelly voice came through the line. I got your message. Are you all right? Not really, I admitted. I explained everything again, more coherently than my rambling voicemail. The stolen credit card, the attempted car purchase, the hospital incident, Roger's threats, and now the forged check. Bill was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You need to come to my office right away. Before you go to the bank. We need to talk about how to protect yourself." "Bill, this is my son," I said. "I don't want to destroy his life." "Gabriel, your son forged a check for $45,000. That's a felony. That's 2 to 10 years in prison. Whether or not you want to press charges, once the bank reports it to law enforcement, the wheels start turning. The question isn't whether Travis faces consequences. The question is how you protect yourself from being dragged down with him. An hour later, I was sitting in Bill's office on Main Street, above the hardware store. Bill was 72, still practicing law, because he loved it too much to retire. He had handled Helen's will when she passed. He knew my financial situation intimately. He spread out papers on his desk, taking notes as I talked. "Here's what's going to happen," Bill said when I finished. "The bank is obligated to report the fraud to police. They may have already done so. Travis will be arrested, likely within the next few days. His attorney is going to pressure you to not cooperate with prosecution, maybe even to sign an affidavit saying you authorized the check." "I didn't authorize anything," I said firmly. "I know, and you're not going to say you did. That would be perjury and would make you complicit in the fraud." Bill leaned forward. "Gabriel, I need you to understand something. Your son is in serious trouble, but he put himself there. You didn't do this to him. He did. He's desperate," I said. "Ashley, the baby, the debt. He's not thinking clearly." "Desperation doesn't excuse felony fraud," Bill said. "Now, there's something else you need to know. The fact that his attorney contacted you directly is a problem. He shouldn't be communicating with you without your attorney present. That's why you're going to forward all communications to me from now on. No more direct contact." My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. James Caldwell, Travis's attorney. "Mr. Morgan, it's in everyone's best interest to resolve this quickly and quietly. Family matters should stay in the family. Let's meet and work this out before things get messy." I showed the message to Bill. He shook his head. "Don't respond. Let me handle it." He typed something on his computer. "I'm sending him an email right now, informing him that I represent you and all communication needs to go through me." We spent another hour going over everything. Bill advised me to get copies of all my bank statements, credit card statements, any documentation of what Travis had taken or attempted to take. He also suggested I install security cameras at my house given Roger's threats. "One more thing," Bill said as I was about to leave. "You might want to prepare yourself for the possibility that Travis could try to have you declared incompetent." "What?" "It's a tactic that's sometimes used in elder financial abuse cases, except in reverse. If he can convince someone that you're mentally unfit to handle your own finances, he might be able to get control of your accounts through conservatorship or guardianship." "But I'm fine," I protested. "I'm completely competent." "I know that. But if he gets a doctor to say otherwise, or if he manufactures evidence of diminished capacity, it could become a legal battle." Bill's expression was grim. "I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying you need to be aware of all possible angles." I left Bill's office feeling like I had entered a nightmare from which I could not wake up. My own son was now essentially an enemy combatant, and I had to treat him as a threat. At the bank, I met with the fraud department manager, a woman named Lisa Chen. She was professional and sympathetic. "Mr. Morgan, we've secured your accounts," she said. "The check has been flagged and will not be processed. We've also issued you new cards and new account numbers. Your old cards have been canceled." "Thank you," I said. "I do need to inform you that we're obligated to report this to law enforcement. We've already filed a report with the county sheriff's department. They'll likely want to interview you." "I understand. I'm sorry you're going through this," Lisa said quietly, "especially with family." That afternoon, I went to the hardware store and bought 2 security cameras and a video doorbell. The teenager who helped me load them into my truck looked at me curiously, but did not ask questions. I spent the rest of the day installing the cameras, following the instructions carefully. One pointed at my driveway and front door. One covered the back entrance. The doorbell camera would capture anyone who approached my porch. All of it uploaded to an app on my phone. I was tightening the last screw when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Gabriel Morgan?" A woman's voice, official sounding. "Yes. This is Patricia Summers from Adult Protective Services. I need to schedule a home visit to speak with you. We've received a report of concern." My blood ran cold. "A report about what?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details over the phone, but it's regarding your well-being and living situation. Are you available tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon?" "What kind of report?" I demanded. "Who called you?" "The report was anonymous, sir, but we take all reports seriously." "So I'll see you tomorrow at 2? "Fine," I said. "Yes." After she hung up, I immediately called Bill. "They're trying to have me declared incompetent," I said. "APS just called. Someone filed a report." "Okay," Bill said calmly. "Don't panic. This is exactly what I warned you about. Here's what you're going to do. When the social worker comes tomorrow, be cooperative, be clear-minded, Show her your home is clean and safe. Have all your financial documents organized and ready to show that you're managing your affairs competently. Call me as soon as she leaves. Bill, who would do this? Does it matter? We both know it's either Travis or Roger or Ashley, maybe all of them together. They're trying to establish that you're vulnerable, possibly incompetent, to justify taking control of your finances. This is insane. This is what happens when money and desperation collide, Bill said. Stay strong, Gabriel. Document everything, and don't engage with them directly. That evening, there was a knock on my door. I checked the new doorbell camera. 2 sheriff's deputies stood on my porch. I opened the door. Gabriel Morgan? The older deputy asked. That's me. I'm Deputy Reynolds. This is Deputy Martinez. We need to ask you some questions about a fraud report filed by First National Bank. I let them in, offered them coffee, which they declined. We sat in my living room, and I told them everything. They took notes, asked clarifying questions, remained professionally neutral. Has your son attempted to contact you since the fraud was discovered? Deputy Reynolds asked. No, I said. But his attorney has. Don't respond to the attorney directly. If he contacts you again, let us know. Reynolds handed me his card. Mr. Morgan, I want you to know that check fraud is a serious crime. Given the amount involved, this will be investigated thoroughly. Your son will likely be arrested once we complete our investigation. He's my only child, I said quietly. I understand, sir. But the law is the law. After they left, I stood in my kitchen looking at the deputy's card. My son was going to be arrested. My son was going to have a criminal record. My son might go to prison. And he had done it to himself. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from a number I did not recognize. I played it. Dad. Travis's voice, rough and angry. I know you talked to the cops. I know you're cooperating with them. You're really going to do this? You're really going to have your own son arrested? Over money? That's what you care about? Money over family? Well, congratulations, Dad. You win. You've destroyed this family. Ashley's barely speaking to me. Her parents think I'm a liar and a criminal. And it's all because you couldn't just help us out like a normal father would. I hope you're happy. I hope that money keeps you warm at night. Because you're going to die alone, and we won't be at your funeral. The message ended. I played it again. And again. Listening to my son's voice, hearing the pain and anger and desperation, but also hearing the manipulation, the blame shifting, the refusal to take responsibility. I saved the voicemail. Bill had told me to document everything. Then I sat in my quiet house and let myself cry for the first time since Helen's funeral. The next 2 weeks were the worst of my life. Somehow, worse than when Helen died. Because at least then, I had known she was good and I was good and the world was simply cruel. This was different. This was being attacked by people who should love me. It started with social media, though I did not know about it at first because I barely used the internet beyond checking email and reading news. Martha Johnson, my neighbor from 3 houses down, was the one who told me. She showed up at my door on a Saturday morning, holding her phone like it was evidence of a crime. Gabriel, I think you need to see this, she said, her face troubled. She showed me Ashley's Facebook post. There was a picture of an ultrasound, the grainy black and white image that could have been anything, really, but Ashley had drawn a little heart on it. The caption read, "This is my baby, the baby whose grandfather will never meet him or her. Why? Because my father-in-law values money more than family. Because when we asked for help, he turned his back on us. Because he's more concerned with hoarding his wealth than supporting his only son and grandchild. We've had to cut him out of our lives for our own mental health. It breaks my heart that my child will grow up without knowing their grandpa, but some people show you who they really are. Money cannot buy love, but apparently, love cannot overcome greed either." The post had been shared 4,000 times. 4,000. The comments were brutal. What kind of monster abandons a pregnant daughter-in-law? This is elder greed at its worst. These old people sitting on piles of money while young families struggle. My heart breaks for you. Stay strong, Mama. Gabriel Morgan should be ashamed of himself. Martha squeezed my arm. I know this isn't the whole story, Gabriel, but a lot of people are seeing this. Over the next few days, I felt the change in my community. At the grocery store, the cashier who usually chatted with me was cold and formal. At the gas station, a woman I vaguely recognized from church glared at me openly. Someone had spray-painted "Dead Bet Grandpa" across my garage door in bright red letters. I called the police. They took a report. They said it was probably kids. They did nothing. I painted over the graffiti myself, my back aching from reaching high with the roller. The paint did not quite match. You could still see the words underneath if you knew what to look for. My church, the place I had attended for 20 years, became hostile territory. After Sunday service, Father Kenneth pulled me aside into his office. "Gabriel, I need to talk to you about something sensitive," he said. "The Facebook post," I said flatly. "Several parishioners have expressed concern. They've seen the post, they've heard things from Ashley's family. I want to hear your side." I told him. All of it. The stolen card, the forged check, the manipulation and threats. Father Kenneth listened, his expression troubled. "Gabriel, I believe you're telling me the truth, but you have to understand. Perception matters. A lot of people in this congregation know Roger and Diane. They're well liked. And the image of a pregnant young woman being denied help, it resonates with people." "So what are you saying?" I asked. "I'm saying that perhaps it would be better if you attended the early service for a while, just until things settle down. Some of the other parishioners, particularly the younger families, they're uncomfortable. You're asking me to change my worship schedule because of lies someone posted online? I'm asking you to consider what's best for the community," Father Kenneth said gently. "I'm not saying you're wrong, Gabriel. I'm saying the situation is complicated." I left his office feeling like I had been slapped. The following Tuesday, I received a call from Daniel Pearson, the owner of the engineering firm I occasionally did consulting work for. "Gabriel, we need to talk," he said, his voice uncomfortable. "I got a call from HR. Apparently, there have been some complaints." "Complaints about what?" "About your conduct. Anonymous complaints that you've been inappropriate or unprofessional." "That's absurd," I said. "I haven't even been in the office in 3 weeks." "I know, which is why I don't believe them. But Gabriel, I also have a business to run. And right now, with everything going on, with the things people are saying online, I think it's best if we put your consulting contract on hold. Just temporarily, until this all blows over." "Daniel, I need that income," I said. "I know, and I'm sorry. But I have to think about the company's reputation too." He hung up. Just like that, I lost $1,200 a month. That afternoon, the APS social worker, Patricia Summers, returned for a follow-up visit. She had been to my house once before, had interviewed me, had inspected my home and found nothing concerning. But apparently, more reports had been filed. "Mr. Morgan, I've received 3 additional anonymous reports in the past week," she said, sitting in my living room with her tablet. "Claims that you're exhibiting signs of paranoia, that you're making irrational financial decisions, that you're isolated and potentially vulnerable." "I'm not paranoid," I said. "I'm being actively harassed. Look at my garage door. Look at the security footage I've collected of people driving by slowly, taking pictures of my house. This is coordinated intimidation." Patricia nodded. "I've reviewed your previous interview and assessment. In my professional opinion, you're clearly competent and managing your affairs well. However, the frequency of these reports is concerning. Someone is very determined to paint a different picture." "It's my son and his in-laws," I said. "They're trying to gain control of my finances." "That's certainly what it looks like to me," Patricia agreed. "But I want you to know that every report, no matter how clearly false, still requires investigation. So, you may see me again. I apologize for the intrusion, but it's the law." "I understand." After she left, I sat alone and felt the walls closing in. My community had turned on me. My church had asked me to hide. My income was gone. My son hated me. And somewhere out there, my future grandchild was growing inside a woman who had decided I was the enemy. That night, Roger showed up with his friends. I saw them on the security camera before they knocked. 3 large men, faces hard, standing on my porch. I did not answer the door. "Gabriel," Roger's voice boomed. "Open up. We need to talk." I called the police instead, staying on the line with the dispatcher, as Roger pounded on the door. "This is your last warning, old man," Roger shouted. "Drop the charges against Travis, or we'll drop you." He kicked my mailbox off its post as they left. The police arrived 15 minutes later, took another report, said there was not much they could do without clear video of who had damaged the mailbox. I showed them the footage. They said the image was too grainy to identify anyone definitively, even though I could clearly see Roger's face. "Maybe you should try to work this out with your family," the younger officer suggested. "These domestic situations, they tend to escalate when the law gets involved." "The law is already involved," I said. "My son committed fraud." "Still," the officer said, "family is family." They left. I was alone again. The next morning, I received a certified letter, a lawsuit. Travis and Ashley were suing me for intentional infliction of emotional distress and grandparent alienation. The damages they sought: $250,000. I called Bill Henderson immediately. "It's a frivolous lawsuit," Bill said after I read it to him. "They have no legal standing for grandparent alienation when the child hasn't even been born yet. And emotional distress requires proving you intentionally caused psychological harm through outrageous conduct. So I'll win? Probably. But it will cost you thousands in legal fees to defend. Which is the point. They're trying to bleed you dry financially and emotionally until you break." "I won't break," I said. But sitting in my empty house, my garage door still showing ghost words beneath fresh paint, my mailbox lying in the yard, my phone silent because no one wanted to talk to me anymore, I wondered if that was true. I wondered how much more I could take before I shattered completely. 1 month after everything started, I sat in my house during a thunderstorm and seriously considered just giving them the money. Not because I thought they deserved it, not because I believed it would fix anything, but because I was so tired, so completely exhausted from fighting, from defending myself, from being treated like a villain, when all I had done was protect what was mine. The lawsuit was moving forward. Travis's criminal case was proceeding. The social media posts continued, each one more damaging than the last. I had stopped going to church entirely. I had stopped going anywhere except the grocery store and the bank. I was becoming exactly what Ashley had accused me of being, a bitter, isolated old man. That is when my phone rang from an unknown number with an area code I did not recognize. I almost did not answer. But something made me pick up. "Is this Gabriel Morgan?" A young woman's voice, nervous. "Yes. My name is Megan Ross. I'm Ashley's sister. We've never met, but I think we need to talk, in person. I'm flying into town tomorrow. Can you meet me somewhere?" "Why?" I asked warily. "Because I have information you need. About Ashley. About what she's doing to you and Travis. Please, Mr. Morgan. This is important." Something in her voice convinced me. We arranged to meet at a diner on the edge of town, the kind of place where nobody I knew would see us. The next afternoon, I arrived early and sat in a booth by the window, watching rain streak down the glass. When Megan walked in, I recognized her immediately, even though we had never met. She had Ashley's bone structure but softer eyes, less makeup, worn jeans instead of designer clothes. She slid into the booth across from me. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why are you here?" I asked. "Why are you helping me?" Megan took a deep breath. "Because I know my sister. And I know what she's doing to you is wrong. And because someone needs to tell you the truth before this destroys everything." "What truth?" "Ashley's done this before," Megan said quietly. "She's run this exact same playbook on someone else." She pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Inside were printouts of documents, photos, screenshots of text messages, and emails. 4 years ago, Ashley was married to a man named Craig Brennan. They were together for 2 years. His parents, Harold and Susan, they had money. Not a fortune, but comfortable. Maybe $150,000 in retirement savings. She showed me a wedding photo. Ashley in white, smiling next to a tall, sandy-haired man who looked kind but weak. 6 months into the marriage, Ashley told Craig she was pregnant. She needed better housing, better transportation, all these expensive things for the baby. Craig's parents gave them $50,000. They took out a loan against their home equity. My stomach churned. Then Ashley had a miscarriage. Except the doctors could never confirm she had actually been pregnant in the first place. The medical records were vague. But she used the grief to manipulate Craig and his parents for months, demanding more money for therapy, for fertility treatments, for trips to help her heal. Megan showed me bank statements, copies of checks made out to Ashley and Craig. When the money ran out, Ashley filed for divorce. She claimed Craig was emotionally abusive. She got half their assets in the settlement, even though everything had come from his family. Harold and Susan were destroyed financially and emotionally. Susan ended up having a heart attack from the stress. She survived, but they lost their house. I stared at the documents, my hands shaking. "Where is Ashley's first husband now?" I asked. "Remarried, living in Oregon. He wants nothing to do with any of this. But his mother, Susan, she's willing to talk to you, to testify if needed. She wants to help." "Does Travis know about any of this?" I asked. "No. Ashley told him she had been in one short relationship that did not work out. She never mentioned being married. She changed her last name back to her maiden name and buried her whole past." Megan's voice was thick with emotion. "I've been estranged from Ashley for 3 years because of what she did to Craig's family. My parents, Roger and Diane, they helped cover it up. They always protect Ashley, no matter what she does. Why are you telling me this now? Because I saw the Facebook posts. Because my friend who still lives here told me what was happening. And because I realized Ashley found another target, another family to destroy, and I couldn't stay silent this time. Tears rolled down Megan's cheeks. I loved my sister once. But she's sick, Mr. Morgan. She's got some kind of personality disorder or something. She's a con artist. And she'll ruin Travis's life the same way she ruined Craig's, if someone doesn't stop her. I looked through more documents. Copies of Ashley's first marriage license, divorce papers, medical records that Susan had somehow obtained showing Ashley's questionable pregnancy claims, screenshots from Ashley's old social media accounts under her married name showing expensive purchases and vacation photos while claiming poverty. This is evidence of fraud, I said slowly. This is evidence of a pattern. Yes, Megan said. Take it to your lawyer. Take it to the police. Use it to protect yourself and to protect Travis. My brother-in-law doesn't deserve what she's doing to him either. He's as much a victim as you are. We talked for another hour. Megan told me stories about growing up with Ashley, how their sister had always been manipulative, always playing victim, always blaming everyone else for her problems. How Roger and Diane enabled it, made excuses, bailed her out of every consequence. My parents were never going to pay for that baby stuff, Megan said. They're in debt themselves. They were planning to pressure you for the money and keep some for themselves. That's how they operate. When we finally left the diner, Megan hugged me. I'm sorry my family did this to you, she said. You seem like a good man. You don't deserve any of it. Thank you, I managed to say. Thank you for coming forward. I drove home through the rain, the folder on my passenger seat, feeling something I had not felt in weeks. Hope. I called Bill Henderson from my driveway. Bill, I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning. I have new evidence. A lot of new evidence. What kind of evidence? The kind that changes everything. That night, I actually slept. For the first time in a month, I slept through until morning. But the next day, as I was leaving for Bill's office, I saw Roger's truck parked across the street. He was sitting in the driver's seat, watching my house. He had seen Megan and me at the diner. He knew I had information now, and he was not going to let me use it without a fight. I got in my truck and drove to Bill's office, checking my rearview mirror constantly. Roger followed me for 3 blocks before turning off. He was letting me know. He was watching. He knew. The war was not over. In fact, it was about to get much worse before it got better. Bill Henderson spread Megan's documents across his conference table, reading carefully, his expression growing more serious with each page. This is substantial, he said, finally. This is a clear pattern of fraud and manipulation. This changes everything. What do we do with it? I asked. First, we file motions in the civil lawsuit Ashley and Travis brought against you. We attach this evidence and request dismissal with prejudice. Second, we provide copies to the prosecutor handling Travis's criminal case. This shows Travis was likely manipulated, which could lead to reduced charges. Third, we provide it to the sheriff's department for their fraud investigation. Will it stop them? I asked. It should. Once Ashley realizes her entire history is about to become public record, she'll back down. People like her rely on their victims staying silent. Once the pattern is exposed, the game is over. Over the next 2 weeks, Bill executed the plan methodically. Documents were filed. Evidence was submitted. Susan Brennan, Ashley's former mother-in-law, provided a sworn affidavit detailing everything Ashley had done to her family. Then Bill arranged something I had not expected, a formal meeting at the county courthouse, with mediators present and attorneys for both sides. I did not want to see Travis. I did not want to face Ashley or Roger. But Bill convinced me it was necessary. They need to know you have the evidence, Bill said. They need to see their game is over. On a cold Tuesday morning in late November, I walked into the courthouse conference room. Travis sat on one side of the table, with his public defender, a tired-looking man named David Ross. Ashley sat next to him, hands folded on the table, her face carefully blank. Roger and Diane sat behind them, Roger's face red, with barely controlled anger. On my side, Bill Henderson and the county mediator, a woman named Joyce Martinez, who had handled thousands of family disputes. Joyce opened the meeting. We're here to attempt resolution of the civil lawsuit and to discuss the criminal matters pending against Mr. Travis Morgan. Mr. Henderson has submitted new evidence that all parties need to review. Bill slid folders across the table, one to Travis's attorney, one to Ashley, one to Roger. "What's this?" Travis asked, looking confused. "Open it," Bill said calmly. I watched Travis's face as he looked through the documents. Confusion turned to shock, turned to horror. His face went pale. "What the hell?" He turned to Ashley. "You were married before? To someone named Craig?" Ashley's carefully maintained composure cracked. "Travis, let me explain. You told me I was your first serious relationship." Travis's voice rose. "You said you'd never been engaged, never been married. Who is Craig Brennan?" "A mistake," Ashley said quickly. "A short marriage that didn't work out. I didn't want to burden you with my past." "A short marriage, where you defrauded his parents out of $50,000, Bill said, his voice cutting. "Where you faked a pregnancy or miscarriage, where you destroyed a family financially and emotionally. Just like you're trying to do to Gabriel now." "That's not what happened," Ashley protested, but her voice was weak. Travis was still reading, flipping through pages. "There's medical records here. The doctors couldn't confirm you were ever pregnant with Craig's baby. Ashley, were you lying about that?" "I had a miscarriage. It was traumatic. How dare you question me? Because I'm starting to wonder if you're lying about this baby too." Travis stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Are you even pregnant right now, Ashley? Really pregnant?" "Of course I am." She pulled an ultrasound photo from her purse, the same one from her Facebook posts. "Here's proof." Bill cleared his throat. "That ultrasound is dated from 6 weeks ago. It shows approximately 4 weeks gestation, which means if you're really pregnant, you should be about 10 weeks along now. Current medical confirmation should be easy to provide." Ashley's face went white. "She's barely pregnant." Megan's voice came from the doorway. I turned to see her standing there with the mediator's permission. "I asked my mom yesterday when Ashley's due date is." Mom said April. But if Ashley was pregnant when all this started 6 weeks ago, her due date should be early June. The timeline doesn't work. "Who are you?" Travis demanded. "I'm Megan, Ashley's sister. The one she hasn't spoken to in 3 years because I called her out for what she did to Craig's family." Roger stood up. "You little traitor. You came here to testify against your own sister?" "I came here to stop her from ruining more lives," Megan said firmly, "including Travis's. He doesn't deserve what you're all doing to him." Travis sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. "This can't be real. This can't be happening." Ashley tried to grab his arm. "Travis, baby, don't listen to them. They're lying. Your father is paying them to lie because he doesn't want to give us money." "I'm not paying anyone anything," I said, speaking for the first time. "All I've done is protect myself from fraud and manipulation." Travis looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry isn't enough," Bill said. "Let's discuss terms." The mediation took another 3 hours. In the end, here is what was agreed. Ashley's lawsuit against me was dismissed with prejudice. She would pay my legal fees, approximately $15,000. Since she had no money, Roger would have to pay it. Travis's criminal charges were reduced to a misdemeanor, with 2 years probation and mandatory financial counseling. He would not go to prison, but he would have a record. Restraining orders were issued. Ashley and Roger could not contact me directly for any reason for at least 2 years. Travis was required to attend therapy and prove he was working to become financially stable before he could have any relationship with me. Ashley would undergo a supervised medical examination to confirm whether she was actually pregnant and how far along. The results would be provided to Travis and his attorney. Roger faced potential charges for vandalism and intimidation based on my security footage and police reports. Ashley's face was stone as the agreements were signed. Roger stormed out before everything was finished. Diane cried quietly, probably realizing their scheme had completely fallen apart. When it was done, Travis approached me hesitantly. "Dad, can we talk? Just for a minute?" I looked at Bill. He nodded. Travis and I walked out to the courthouse steps. It was a cold day, gray clouds threatening snow. We stood there in our coats, breath visible in the air, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I don't know how to fix this," Travis said finally. "I don't know if I can." "You start by being honest," I said. "With yourself, with me, with everyone. You made choices, Travis. Bad choices. You stole from me. You lied. You let yourself be manipulated, but you still made the choice to go along with it." "I know." His voice cracked. "I thought I was helping my wife. I thought I was being a good husband. I thought you were just being stubborn and cheap. And now? Now I don't know what's real anymore." He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Was Ashley ever really in love with me? Or was I just another mark? I don't know, son. That's something you'll have to figure out. I think I need to divorce her, Travis said quietly. I think my marriage is over before it really began. That's your decision to make. But Travis, whether you divorce her or not, you need to get your life together. The debt, the spending, the entitlement, that has to change. I know. I'm going to do the therapy. I'm going to get financially stable. I'm going to prove to you that I can change. He hesitated. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I looked at my son, this man I had raised, who had hurt me so deeply but who was also hurting himself. I don't know. Maybe. If you really change, if you really work on yourself, maybe someday we can have a relationship again. But it won't be what it was. Too much has happened. I understand. Travis wiped his eyes. For what it's worth, I really am sorry, Dad. I'm sorry for everything. He walked away, shoulders hunched against the cold. I watched him go and felt a complicated mix of sadness and relief. Over the next few months, the truth came out in pieces. The medical examination confirmed Ashley was about 6 weeks pregnant, not 10 or 12, like she had been claiming. She had gotten pregnant after all the drama started, possibly intentionally to strengthen her manipulation, or maybe by accident. I would never know for sure. Travis filed for divorce 2 weeks after the mediation. Ashley moved back in with Roger and Diane. The baby, a boy, was born in May. Travis got shared custody after a paternity test confirmed he was the father. The news about Ashley's fraud history leaked to local media somehow. Megan claimed she had nothing to do with it, but I suspected she had made sure the truth got out. The story ran in the county newspaper. Local woman accused of pattern of financial fraud against families. Ashley's Facebook posts were deleted. Some people in the community apologized to me. Most just quietly stopped talking about it. Roger faced misdemeanor charges for the vandalism and intimidation. He took a plea deal, community service, and anger management classes. We never spoke again. My church welcomed me back, though I started attending a different congregation on the other side of town. Father Kenneth apologized, but the damage to that relationship had been done. My consulting work was reinstated. Daniel Pearson called me personally to apologize and ask if I would come back. 6 months after everything fell apart, Travis came to visit on a Sunday afternoon. He had lost weight, looked tired but somehow healthier, more grounded. I brought someone to meet you, he said. He went to his car and came back, carrying an infant car seat. Inside was my grandson, 4 weeks old, sleeping peacefully. His name is Henry, Travis said. I wanted to name him after Grandpa Henry, Helen's dad. I hope that's okay. I looked down at the tiny face, at this innocent child, who had been at the center of so much conflict without having any choice in the matter. It's perfect, I said. I'm not asking you for money, Travis said quickly. I'm not asking for anything except a chance to rebuild. I've got a second job now, working nights at a warehouse. I'm paying off the debt slowly. I moved into a studio apartment that I can afford. I'm doing the therapy. I'm trying to be better. I can see that, I said. We sat on my porch, the baby between us, and talked. Really talked, for the first time in years, about his marriage, his mistakes, his fears about being a father, about my loneliness, my anger, my struggle to forgive. It was not perfect. We were not healed, but it was honest. Travis visited every Sunday after that. Sometimes we just sat in silence. Sometimes we talked. Slowly, carefully, we began rebuilding something that resembled a relationship. I started a small college fund for Henry. Not much, just $25 a month. Not because Travis asked, but because I wanted to. Because that baby deserved a future that was not defined by his parents' mistakes. One evening, nearly a year after everything started, I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset when my phone rang. It was Travis. Dad, I wanted to tell you something. I got a promotion at work. Nothing huge, just a supervisor position, but it comes with better pay and benefits. And I paid off the first credit card. $10,000 down, 28 to go. That's good, son. That's real progress. I couldn't have done it without you standing firm, without you refusing to enable me. I hated you for it at the time. But you were right. You were right about everything. After we hung up, I sat holding my phone and thought about what I had learned through all of this. I learned that love without boundaries is not love at all. It is enabling, it is codependency, it is the slow destruction of everyone involved. I learned that protecting yourself, standing up for yourself, refusing to be manipulated, those things are not selfish. They are survival. They are self-respect. They are necessary. I learned that real family shows up with honesty, not demands. Real family respects boundaries. Real family does not threaten or blackmail or steal. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no, even when it costs you everything, even when it hurts worse than anything you have ever felt. That $200,000 is still in my account. Well, $194,000 now after legal fees. It is mine. I earned it. Every penny represents years of work, sacrifice, Helen's memory, my future security. And knowing that I stood my ground, that I refused to be destroyed, that I protected what was mine even when it meant losing my son for a while, that is worth more than any amount of money. Some battles are not about winning. They are about refusing to lose yourself in the process. I still sit on my porch most evenings, watching the sun set over my small yard with its overgrown grass and Helen's garden that I am slowly learning to tend. I hold my phone, looking at pictures of Henry, this grandson I nearly never met. And I think, I did it. I survived. I protected myself. I stood firm. And in the end, because I stood firm, there is a chance for something real to grow. Not perfect, not what I imagined, but honest. And that is enough. That is more than enough. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between helping family and protecting yourself? Where saying no was the hardest but most necessary thing you could do? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is facing a similar choice. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel something, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button. It helps others find these stories. And if you want to hear more stories about real-life struggles, family conflicts, and finding your way through difficult times, please subscribe to the channel. I share new stories every week, and your support means everything. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this story, someone who is struggling with family boundaries or financial manipulation, please share this video with them. Sometimes, we all need to know we are not alone in our struggles. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you find the strength to stand firm when you need to, the courage to say no when it is necessary, and the wisdom to know that protecting yourself is not selfish. It is survival. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, real love respects boundaries. Anyone who truly cares about you will never ask you to destroy yourself to make them happy. Until next time, be well.